What's going on, Tamers? Gino here, and I just wanted to show off my deck profile for what is my favorite deck of the format and maybe my favorite deck in the whole game right now. Phoenixmon X Antibody. This deck is so cool. It can do some crazy things. It got some tops recently, and it's so versatile, and you can build it in so many ways. So if you decide to follow my deck profile here, just know that there's so much you can do with it, and I'll talk about some of the changes you can make as we go. But yeah, I just wanted to show off this deck. My build of it, I've won 3 locals in a row with it. So I'm 9-0, undefeated Phoenixmon champion. But really fun. Let's get into the deck profile, shall we? So first off, the egg, we're just running 4, and this is of course the BT15 Yokomon egg. This is the one that you want to run because it does everything for the deck. It gives you early aggression and lets you recycle your rookies. It gives you Sora plays for later, so you can play out more stuff. This egg is so good for the deck. On deletion, return 1 Digimon card with Avian, Bird, Beast, Animal, or Sovereign, other than Sea Animal, and one of its traits from your trash to the hand. And spoiler, every card in this deck that is Digimon is going to be Avian, Bird, Beast, Animal, or Sovereign. Because I tried it with some other stuff, and I just didn't like it. The other things felt kind of like a brick in the hand, so we're pretty tribal here. Next, for rookies, we're going to be running 4 copies of the BT15 Biomon. This is your main searcher. Really good card. Start of your main phase. So as soon as you raise, basically, you're going to trash a Digimon card with Avian, Bird, Beast, Animal, or Sovereign, other than Sea Animal, in one of its traits in your hand. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck and grab any red card. Any red card. So you can grab your Tamers, you can grab your options, you can even grab things that are outside of Archetype. So I was using this to grab some out-of-Archetype cards that I was using before, but I didn't like it as much because the other search misses it. And that other search is BT11 Biomon. This is another 4 of, and this is just going to dig top 3. It's going to grab you any red vaccine Digimon and a Tamer, which is really good because we run a good amount of Tamers. I believe I have 8 in this build. Yeah, 8 Tamers. So, and the Tamers are really important to the game plan, so you definitely need to find them. And then real quick, because it is important, the BT15 Biomon says, your turn once per turn as inheritable. When a card is removed from your opponent's security stat, gain a memory. But I actually prefer the BT11s better, which is on deletion if you have a red Tamer and play gain a memory. We'll talk about all these on deletions, and I'll talk about how to sequence this and combos when we get further on. And then the last rookie of the deck, we're running 3 copies of BT13 Biomon. This is your Warper. You only ever need to see this basically once or twice, because you throw it in your trash and then you recycle it and use it later, off of Christie's effect or off of your other effects. So basically what this says is, if this Digimon was played by an effect, by returning a Christie Daemon to hand, this Digimon may Digivolve into a Garudamon in the hand, ignoring its Digivolution requirements and without paying cost. So you can really combo off, get really fast up into your level 5 for free or very cheap. It's a awesome card. I've seen some lists drop Christie and the Christie Biomon's out, and I understand why. I think you could, and like I said, you can build this deck in many different ways. But I really like the Christie package. I think it adds a lot of versatility and some extra card draw, because you're gonna Evo for free and get that extra draw. So that's it for our level 3s. It is really important to open a rookie. If you do not open a rookie, you mulligan the hand, like 99% of the time. Hell, maybe 100% of the time. Because the rookies are so important, and a lot of the time you're going for early chip damage anyway, so you'll get your BT15 Biomon, get your search, and then just swing and let it die, and grab it back with the Yokomon Inherit early game. Because early game, you're just doing a couple swings of chip damage, and then you get to really pop off later. And for that reason, I think it is good if you want to run some Ukomon, but you'd have to cut some stuff out, and space is tight, which you'll see because the level 4 count is pretty low. But let's talk about them. First, I'm running 3 copies, and this is probably the first card I would cut down to 2, of BT11 Birdramon. BT11 Birdramon is a blocker, though, which is really nice and has saved my skin a number of times. Never know when you might need a blocker, especially one that you can play for free off of an effect and just slap down. And it also is great because not only is it a blocker, so they have to think about that, but it also sets up your Garuda Ace, which we'll talk about later. Its inheritable is also incredibly good. On deletion, you play a red tamer with a play cost 4 or less from your hand without paying the cost, so that's all of the tamers in this deck. And you're often recycling tamers back and forth between your hand and the playfield, so it's really good to be able to just keep cycling them back out. So 3 copies of this Birdramon. Then we're running 2 copies of BT15 Birdramon. This is when digivolving, you must return a red Digimon card with Avian Bird, Beast, Animal Sovereign, other than Sea Animal, and one of its traits from trash to hand. So this is gonna get you some more cycle. What's a neat combo you can do is that if you need to climb in a turn, you'll push out this Biomon, you'll trash, say, the Garudamon that you need to climb all the way up your stack, to search something out, then Evo into this Birdramon and grab that Garudamon that you just trashed out. So really, you didn't lose any cards and you just plussed 1 off of the Biomon effect. And there are more combos you can do with that, of course. But for now, this is a card you only ever need to see 1 of, and that's why I run it at 2 of, because once it ends up in your trash, you can grab it back by other effects and then use it when you really need it. Otherwise, this one is probably sticking in your hand for most of the game until you need that specific effect, or again, it's like an early game climb that I just explained. And our final level 4, we are just running 7 level 4s, is 2 copies of promo Raid Retail Saberdramon. This card goes insane. It deals with basically any threat on the board, as long as it's not immune to effects, right? Because you can just raid into it and it has retaliation. On deletion, it also helps you cycle. You're going to return a red or purple Digimon card from trash to hand, and that's really good. And then this Birdramon, by the way, has the same inheritable as this Biomon, where when a card's removed from security, you're going to gain a memory. And I really think that these are the 2 weakest inheritables in the whole deck. In a deck full of very good inheritables. Maybe this one's kind of meh too. This is just on deletion, draw 1. But that's it for the 4s. Just 7 4s. Reason being, a lot of time you're warping into your 5, or you're playing your 5 for free off of other effects, and you really don't need your 4s, or it's easy enough to just cycle your 4s. You find 1 4, and you just keep grabbing it back from the trash as you go by your other effects, like Yokomon or the Birdramon. Okay, let's move into the most important part of the deck, the level 5s, and this is probably the best card in the deck. We're running 4 copies of Garudamon X Antibody, the new BT16 one. This card is insane. Despite being as well as being an X Antibody Digimon, so you're digivolving for free on top of Garudamon, it has a crazy good effect. First, you get to return a red Digimon card from your trash to your hand. Any red Digimon. So again, if you're playing out of archetype stuff, this will grab it for you. But after you return it to the hand, if you have Garudamon or an X Antibody card in its Digivolution cards, you get to delete an opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP than this Digimon. So you're probably clearing a level 5 or lower Digimon just by this deletion effect, which is very strong. Not to mention, you can use Protoform, which we'll talk about later, to go into this for 2 and still get the effects off. And then its secondary effect is also nothing to scoff at. When a red card, returns from your trash to your hand, one of your Digimon gains Rush for the turn. And we'll talk about sequencing later, but that triggers at the same time as some of the other effects. So you can sequence in a way to where this triggered, but you resolve a different trigger first, play a body out, and then give that body Rush. It's really, really cool. I think the best way to get a handle on how to play this deck and how the sequencing works is to just play it on the sim. Even if your sim opponents aren't very good, or if you're just playing against the bots, it doesn't matter. It'll help you learn when these timings come up if you're unsure, and it'll help you sequence the deck much better. But this card is insane. You always want to see it. Probably the best card in the deck. And then finally, the on deletion effect, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. Like, come on. That's so good. That's so good. Especially when you get to do it when not being deleted, which, we'll talk about later. I'm just going to stack these because I don't want to run out of space. Our next level 5 is I'm running 2 copies of BT13 Garudamon. This is the on play when digivolving. You may play a red tamer card with play cost 3 or less from your hand without paying the cost. And then its on deletion effect is also very, very good, which is delete an opponent's Digimon with 6k or less. So this is a really good Garudamon with a really good inheritable. I love this card. If you don't play the Christie package, you might want to drop this out, because a lot of the time the play is you use Christie's effect to play the Biomon, and then you return Christie to hand to warp into this Garudamon, and then you get to play Christie back out for free and activate her on play again, which we'll talk about, and we'll talk about all the sequencing and all the crazy stuff you can do with this deck. But for now, great card. I love it. I was running it at 3. I dropped it because I needed to fit in a different Garudamon, which we will talk about after the next group. So next, we're running 2 copies of Garudamon Ace. And this card does so much heavy lifting if your opponent forgets what it does. Basically, it's a Blast Evo, of course, so you leave your Birdramon on the field and then you go into this, or you can warp into it with the Biomon. Obviously, you don't get to blast with it that way, but you still do get the on Digivolve effect, which is to play a red tamer with play cost 4 or less from your hand without paying the cost. And then when a red tamer is played, you get to pop something with blocker. When I first read this card, I was like, how often do I really need to pop blockers? Well, now there's blockers everywhere. Everything's a blocker. So this is an incredible card, and it's very strong in this deck. I could definitely see you going up to 3 of this Garudamon. But again, space is tight, and a lot of the time you're recycling. So it's okay if you only see 1 or 2, you can recycle them, you can keep them in your hand for when you need them. You don't want to hard evo into them too often, but if you have to, you get a lot of value off of playing your tamer for free and possibly popping something. Plus, once you get Garudamon X Antibody on top of it, you get a really good on deletion inheritable. The thing about Garudamon Ace and why I don't run it at 3 is because I really value these on deletion effects, especially this one, because this helps you deal with floodgates and basically anything small. So Garudamon X will deal with the level 5s and lower, and this will deal with level 4s and lower, basically. And then your Phoenixmons, which we'll get to soon, will deal with everything else. Then, finally, we're going to run just 1 copy of BT11 Garudamon. This is the one that's also just blocker on face, and it has the same inherit as our blocker Birdramon, which is to play a red play cost 4 or less tamer on deletion. This card has won me a game. I played just 1 of it because, again, you're cycling a lot. If you throw it in the trash, you can grab it back pretty easily. It is great to slap down when you need a blocker. This deck goes extremely wide, and a lot of the time you're slamming down your 5s with no sources underneath. So even if you're wide, you're probably fine from Death X, you're fine from Crimson Blaze, because all these guys are big DP, and most of them are big play cost. So a lot of times you have 1 stack, your Phoenix X stack, and then a board of 5s and 6s. It's awesome. Okay, so that's it for our 5s. Let's move on to our level 6 Digimon. I am playing 4 copies of BT15 Phoenixmon. This card is incredibly versatile, and you want to see 2 of them pretty early, hopefully. Basically, what it does is on play and on deletion, if your opponent has 3 or fewer security cards, you delete one of their Digimon with the lowest DP, and if they have 4 or more security cards, you trash the top card of their security stack. So this deals with threats. This does damage to security early game. It's really valuable in that way. And then when digivolving, you're going to play a red Digimon card with 5k DP or less, or a red Tamer card from your hand without paying the cost. So this is great to set up your Soras, because you can play any red Tamer. It's not restricted to 3 play costs like the Garudamon over here. So you can play any of your Tamers out. You can play out one of your level 4s to prepare for a Garuda Ace play if you think your opponent is going to swing with their blocker or something. Or if you just, it's a really good card. I could see switching the ratio. You'll see in a second, but I think it's really good to have 4 because you want to see 2 of them as soon as possible, because you want to evo into 1 and then play out another one. So that brings us to 3 copies of the boy, the namesake of the deck, or the girl, whatever, the Digimon. Phoenixmon X Antibody. This card is insane. When I first read what this card did, I was like, this card does what? It was wild. So when Digivolving Blitz, cool. You get to swing. That's good because it is a 5-cost Evo on a level 5 Digimon, and it's 2 cost on a Phoenixmon, so pretty expensive for an X Antibody Digimon. So you blitz, so you're guaranteed to swing, and then your turn, while Phoenixmon or X Antibodies in this Digimon's Digivolution cards attach End of Attack to all of this Digimon's on deletion effects. That's wild. So you have a whole stack of on deletions if this is the top of your stack, and you just go crazy. And then it has its own on deletion of, you may play one 11,000 DP or lower red Digimon card with the Avian Bird, Beast, etc. trait in one of its traits from your hand without paying the cost, and then also delete one of your opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP as the Digimon this effect played. So it's just, this card is insane. If you get to climb into this card and swing with it, and you live the swing, hell, even if you don't live the swing, you're going to get a ton of on deletion effects that are going to pop off and just go crazy. So if you have the perfect stack, if you have one of everything, you're probably playing a Tamer, you're popping something with 6k DP or less, you're trashing a security, you're playing another body, which will probably delete another Digimon and possibly trash a second security, and you're probably gaining memory or drawing a card, returning something to hand, which you can then combo with our Tamer, which we'll get to soon. This card is wild. Yes, on End of Attack, great, but it still keeps all of its on deletion effects. It attaches it, doesn't change it. So if your opponent removes it, they still have to deal with all of the crap that you're about to do. So since it only plays 11k DP or less, it can't play itself, which is fine. But you can play out the Phoenixmon, which means you get to pop 2 bodies. One from this effect of playing it, and then Phoenixmon's pop effect if they have 3 or fewer security, which they probably will at that point. Really, really good card. All right, let's get into the Tamers. I think I'll talk about this one first. Let's talk about Sora. Sora is our memory setter, and we run 3 of her. She's incredibly good, and as you can see, she's got a lot of text on her, so let me read that for you. So memory setter, start of your turn, set your memory to 3. And then all turns, when a red Digimon card returns from your trash to the hand, by returning this Tamer to the hand, you may play one 13,000 DP or less red Digimon with the Avian Bird, Beast, etc. trait, other than Sea Animal, in one of its traits, from your hand without paying the cost. For each of your opponent's security cards, remove 2k from this effect's total playable DP maximum. So what that means is if they have a full 5 security, you're removing 10k DP from what this effect can play. So you only play a 3,000 or less DP Digimon. So in this case, looking at this board, or looking at these cards, you're only going to be playing Biomon off of that, which is sometimes okay because sometimes you can just warp right into Garudamon anyway if you already have a Christie on the board. But there are so many combos you can do between Sora, Garuda X, Yokomon, the Saber Dramon under here, anything that grabs you back stuff from the trash. And you could just constantly cycle. And it's wild. It's super fun. I'll talk about some of the combos in a little bit. But I could even see bumping her to 4. She can be that important. And again, this is what I was saying a little bit earlier about how do you want to build the deck. If you want a Sora heavy deck, you're gonna bump her up to 4 probably. And you might run more Wings of Love than I do, which we'll see soon. And you might not run as many Christie or Akiho as I do. So it's up to you. There's so much room for how you like to play the deck. Do you want to play Christie Warp? Or do you want to play sort of Sora cheat out stuff cheap by chipping early? If you do, you run some Ukomons instead of that Biomon, or, So many ways you can build the deck. Again, this is just my way. Next Tamer we're going to look at is Christie Daemon. 3 copies of Christie I play to match the Biomon up there. Start of your main phase, if you have a bird or avian in one of its traits, you gain a memory. Guess what? Everything here has bird or avian in its traits, with the exception of Phoenixmon. He's a holy beast. Isn't that weird? Phoenixmon X. Phoenixmon and Phoenixmon X are just holy beasts. Boom. Right off the bat, you're probably gaining memory because you probably have another bird on the field. Okay? Let's start a main, so after you raise and do all your fun stuff. On play, one of your Digimon gains. On deletion, you may play one Biomon from your hand or trash without paying the cost until the end of your opponent's turn. So that's when you get to do Biomon combos. So this is the one you want to play, because this is the one that lets you, if played by an effect, warp into Garudamon. So you play the Christy. You swing with this Biomon, it dies. You return something from trash to hand. You play out this Biomon, you return Christy back to your hand, and then you evo into the Garudamon, which plays the Christy back out. If you have the Garuda X, you can go on top, return something, and grant yourself Rush. Not sure if I even spoke about that, but we will. It's really, really strong. Then play your Christy back out, grant yourself Rush. Hell, if it dies again, play another Biomon back out. It's great. Christy's awesome. Like I said, if you decide to cut the Christy package out, you have a lot more room to play other stuff. But I really think that this is the way. Plus, it's super fun. And let's be honest, if you're not having fun, what are you even doing? Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Akiho Rindo. Akiho is not only a great searcher, so she's going to on-play, flip top 4, and add a red vaccine Digimon to your hand. And then the rest go to the bottom of the deck. But also, your turn when you play a red Digimon with the Avian Bird Beast, etc. in one of its traits, you get to suspend it to give it Rush. So this one does synergize with the Phoenixmons, so if you play a Phoenixmon by effect, you will get the Rush. And this is just... Akiho wins you games. I've seen people cut Akiho out. I could see running Akiho at 1, just because Garudamon X already grants Rush when cards return from trash to hand. So you can kind of... You don't necessarily always need Akiho, but boy am I glad when I have her. And there are situations where I have my whole stack, and all I'm missing is Phoenixmon X. All I need is Phoenixmon X to pop off, so I evo into regular Phoenixmon, and I play Akiho out, which will dig me top 4, and I'll probably find the Phoenix X I was looking for. And that's another trick that you can do with this little Biomon. If you're really missing that Phoenix X, once you've climbed into your stack, you play Biomon off of Phoenixmon's effect, find your Phoenix X, and then you're ready to go to 10. So, great card. I like Akiho at 2. I could see her running her at 1, but I don't know. I've been moving like one piece of this deck around, like little by little, like every week for the past 3 weeks, and I've won every time. And I'm only liking more where it's been going, and I can't see myself moving anything else right now. Next, let's get into the option cards. We're done with Tamers. We're going to run 2 copies of Wings of Love. Again, if you're running a more Sora-heavy build, you might bump this to 3. Wings of Love says, for 2 cost, play a Tamer, which would play cost 4 or less. So that's great, play a red Tamer. So play any of your Tamers for 2. That's already good. But beyond that, if you have a Tamer with Sora in its name, you return a red Digimon from trash to hand. So you play the Sora with this effect. So you play your Memory Setter for 2, which is already great. You return something from trash to hand, which triggers Sora. So you return Sora to hand to play something else from your hand. So Wings of Love is a great combo tool. If possible, you save this until you're ready to combo. You do not want to use this just to choke your opponent to 1 and play your Tamer. There might be a situation where you want to do that, but 90% of the time, you do not want to waste your Wings of Love. There are times when Wings of Love will win you games, will let you extend way beyond what you thought you could. Wings of Love is an amazing card. The security effect is also very good. Not only does it go to hand, but you also get to play a Biomon from trash or hand, which means, guess what? You can do a Christy Warp play. Wings of Love can really surprise your opponent out of security, or just from the hand. You can do some crazy shenanigans. Next option card, I am running 2 copies, and I think that this is the play. I don't think you run any less or more than 2 copies of X Antibody Protoform. This card goes so hard in this deck. If you don't have a regular Garudamon, but you have Garuda X, you get to go into him for 2 and get all of his pop effect, which is incredible. So that's great. And it also means if you don't have Phoenixmon in your stack, you do have the Phoenixmon X, or you don't have enough memory to go Phoenixmon into Phoenixmon X, you can do the proto form, slot it under your level 5, and then go into Phoenix X and get all of Phoenixmon X's end of attack on deletions, which is really, really good. Awesome card. There's not to mention just the fact that it cycles things. So basically, let me read this card if you don't know what it does. So basically, you can slot this under any Digimon. So as long as you have a Digimon, you can play it. You can ignore color requirements. One of your Digimon without X antibody in its sources can digivolve into a Digimon card with X antibody in its traits, from your hand with the cost reduced by 1. And if it did, this goes at the bottom. So you slot this under, you evo for 1 less into an X antibody. So basically, your only choices are Garudamon X or Phoenixmon X, and both of those are incredible choices. And then all turns, when this Digimon would leave the battle, other than by one of your own effects, from this Digimon's Digivolution cards, return 1 Digimon card to the hand, and place this on top of the security stack. So you get to recycle something from in here, and then this goes back on security. You'll get it back soon, probably. Great card. Really good card for this deck. 2, I think, is the sweet spot. I was running it at 1, and I just kept thinking, man, I would really like to see this card right now. So 2, I think, is the right number. Finally, we are running 2 copies of Offense Training. There are some matchups where you need to stay in Raising and build a stack. These Garudamons have some really great on-evo effects, especially the one that plays Tamers for you. Both of these guys. But there are some situations, like against blue decks, where you just can't risk being bounced until you get your big stack out and you get at least 1 big play off with your Phoenixmon X. Or Numamon can easily remove you while you're still level 4. Or, you want to be able to climb all the way up into Phoenix X if you can. And in some matchups, it's not worth risking pushing out and getting off some of your cooler effects. When you can just stay in Raising, dig, and then go for a pop-off turn once you've got your trainings out, you've got your Christies and your Soras, you're starting your turn with maybe 4 memory, and then you got an offense training or 2 to go up your chain. Sometimes that's just the way it be. That's why I run it at 2. Again, if you want to run this more stack-based, you drop some of these cards out and you run more offense training. You run some red memory boost as well, maybe. So, Finally, last 2 cards of the deck. These are Crimson Blaze. Crimson Blaze is, of course, crazy in the current meta. Things go wide, Crimson Blaze deals with that. This is your anti-Numamon answer. This is your Lugamon answer. This is even at times your Imperial Dramon answer. Stop them from playing things by effects, because if they do, they're going to pop off and kill you. Or remove your stuff. So Crimson Blaze, great, 2 copies of it. I was trying 1 copy of Crimson Blaze and 1 copy of Valkyremon Ace for a while. And every time I had Valk Ace in hand, it felt like a brick, or like, man, if I blast into this, it's going to get removed next turn and it's going to suck. Like, at least with your boss monsters here, if they get removed, you get a bunch of really cool effects. The Valk Ace gets removed, you lose 4 memory, and you get some effects. So, but this is it. This is the entire deck profile. I'm going to talk about some quick combos. So let me clean up here and we'll cut real quick. So early game, the goated play one is Evo your BT15 Biomon in the back, Slam your Searcher, find yourself your Tamer, and a piece, right? And then it's time to decide, how am I going to play this game? Am I going to build a stack? Or am I going to swing out and do some Sora bullshit? So if you found your Sora, and you find it a good time to play her, great. You come out, you swing, you've done 2 chip damage. Okay, they're down to 3 security. Now your Yokomon's going to return something from your trash to hand, so you grab back maybe the rookie you need, because there's probably not much else in there at this point, early game. You're on turn, 2? You've swung twice, you've done 2 damage. Guess what? Sora is now in the threshold to play Garudamon. Once they're down to 3 security, you can play a 7k DP or less Digimon. You return that Sora to hand, and you slam down your Garudamon. Let's say this one, which plays your Christie. Hooray. Now, you got your Garuda X in hand, boom, you go into Garuda X for free. You return your Biomon to hand. Now this boy's got Rush. Guess what? Were you lucky enough to grab your Phoenix X in Proto form? You're swinging this turn. You go into Phoenix X for 4. You swing. You do damage. They're down to 2 security now, by the way. And then 1 when you trash something. You play a body out, you're clearing board. This is not only going to delete its effect from Phoenixmon X's, so this is going to delete an 11k or less, and then it's going to delete the lowest play cost Digimon. Plus, oh look, this says delete a 6k or less. So you're deleting off of this swing 1 body, 2 body, 3 bodies. 1 11k, 1 6k, 1 with the lowest DP. That's huge. You can clear boards really easily with this deck. And guess what? If you had Akiho in play, boom, you give this Rush if you still have memory. You probably don't if you had to go into Phoenixmon X for 4th. Okay, let's talk about some of the crazy combos you can do with this deck. If you have like a really ideal stack here. Okay, let's say hypothetically speaking, this is your board state. Okay, you have 3 memory, start with Sora, and you haven't done any damage to your opponent yet. You've just been kind of building and raising, you did some searching with training, you drop Sora, maybe they hit a Christie out of security. Okay? So you raise your Birdramon out. You go to 4. You got the Christie. So you crack your offense, and you go into your Garuda for free. Well, for 1. Right. You draw your card, you're at 3 memory. Let's say you have another Christie. Let's just make this turn really crazy. You have another Christie in your hand, so you play her out. You give Christie's on deletion effect to Garudamon. Okay. Now, unfortunately, you never found Phoenixmon, but you know there's one in the trash. So that's fine. You're going to go into Garuda X for free. You're at 3 memory still. And you grab back one of your 2 Phoenixmons you have in trash. Awesome. Evo into Phoenixmon, you're at 0. Now, Phoenixmon, you're going to play down your Akiho, you're going to search out another piece. And now you have your Akiho set up. So you play it off the Phoenixmon for free. Now, you're at 0 memory, so you go into your Phoenix X for 2. You've passed turn at 2 memory, but you got Blitz, so you swing. Okay, mind you, we've done no damage yet. You swing, you do 1 chip damage. Let's say you had a rookie or something in security. Now, all of your on deletions go off. And you get to pick the order that these all go off on. So, I like to proc the stuff that's mostly inconsequential first, so I'll use the Biomon here. If I have a red Tamer gain a memory, sure, let's grab that memory early so I don't forget about it. Okay, so what's important to note is that as soon as you proc Yokomon, return a Digimon card with Avian Bird, Beast, Sovereign, etc., as soon as you return something, it procs Sora. Sora interrupts all of these effects. So what that means is that if I do Yokomon's effect first, like let's say Phoenixmon's gonna play me another Phoenixmon, but as you know, I don't have one in my hand. I had to grab one from trash to Evo out my ladder here. But I know I have another one in my trash. So I'm gonna grab this Phoenixmon. And that's a special tool that will help us later. Okay, Sora procs now. We haven't done any damage yet. Okay, so let's just make sure that this turn is really crazy so I can show you. So we've only done 1 damage, so if we return Sora to hand, we're only going to get to play a 3k Digimon out, and there are no 3k Digimon in this deck, so that means that we're going to have to play a Biomon. So let's say, okay, we're going to do that. So I'll return, say, I don't care. Well, let's say we didn't have that Biomon that I just pulled out. Okay, we'll return this Biomon to hand. Then we'll return Sora to hand, which will proc her immediately. Okay, we're still waiting on all of these effects. This is important. So we play out the Biomon. Now Biomon is going to get her on play. So let's return Christie to hand and Evo into Garudamon for free. Okay, we draw a card. And then we play that Christie back down off of the Garudamon effect. And we give the effect back to this Garudamon. We can go ahead and tap the Akiho if we want now to give it Rush. But we're not going to. It doesn't matter. You can if you want to, because you're going to get a Garuda X play probably later, and you'll be able to do it again. Okay. So, now that that's done, we can continue resolving our on deletions. So let's go back here to Birdramon. We can play Sora back out for free. Okay. Now, we're still waiting on all the rest of the effects. So let's play this Phoenixmon out. We've done 1 damage, and let's say they have nothing on board right now. Phoenixmon here is going to trash top security because they have 4 or more, and then Garudamon is going to trash top security. So you got to think about the order that you want to do these. If they have a body on board that you really want to get rid of, you might want to trash security first with Garuda X's on deletion before you play out Phoenixmon from Phoenixmon X's on deletion. And remember, Phoenixmon X's on deletion is also going to pop something because it pops whatever DP was less than or equal to the body plate. So, let's say they only have 1 body on board, so we're fine with playing this out first to delete it by Phoenix X's effect, and then this effect goes off his on play. So it trashes a security. Now we're back here. So Garudamon is going to trash another security. Boom. So they're down to 2 security now, because we've done 3 damage. We attacked once, we trashed 1, we trashed 1. Okay. We can delete another body if there's one. And that's it. We've procced all of our on deletion effects. And we've given rush to something. We're in good shape. At this point in the game, you may have some more Garuda X's in your trash. You may not. But what's interesting is, let's say you have another Garuda X in hand. Let's say this was your board state going into the next turn. Okay. I just want to say, so as you can see, you can do a lot of damage here. Before we go into the next turn here. You've passed turn with 1 memory and this board state, which is pretty tough to break. And if you were able to keep turn somehow, you're in really good shape. Another important thing to note is don't forget that since Christy adds an on deletion effect, if you played her during this turn before Phoenix X swung, you get to play a Biomon off of it, off of the end of attack. So that's cool. This deck is so much fun, and you feel awesome when you're popping off, proccing all these effects in whatever order you would like. It's really fun. And the way Sora and Garudamon X work together is just really, really cool. So you can, if this was already on the field, and you evo into Garuda X, draw, and then you return something from trash to hand, this effect to grant Rush is pending, and Sora is pending. So you return Sora to hand to play the Biomon, and then Garudamon grants it Rush. Like I said, play this deck on the simulator. Learn how the timings work, because it's not a deck that you can just grab and go. You're gonna have questions. But this deck is so fun. Probably the most fun deck in the game for me. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Please let me know in the comments what changes you'd like, what you like that works with the deck, what you don't like. I've tried some spicy things. You can try Ukomon. I've tried BT8 Zuchao. I've tried the Volkmon, the Valkyremon Ace. But ultimately, this is what I've settled on. This is what I like. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.